What is up, everyone? Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Game Cast. This is episode 116, I believe. I'm one of your hosts, Kenny, and with me is Tess.
Hello, everybody.
We are back for another awesome show. Before we get into today's topics, just want to talk a little bit about um, Evangelion because I know I've been doing this thing where I talk a little bit about it here and there and like expressing how difficult it is to get through this show. It finally turned a corner.
Aw,
I want to say episode 16 or something or whatever. Um, and a lot of the background information, a lot of the backstory of these characters are actually coming into play.
good.
And it's like, oh, this is interesting now. This isn't, you know, how people are like anime, or actually, I should say the opposite. So nowadays with anime, if you have a I guess a slow moment or like a moment that doesn't have a lot of action, people get upset. So like solo leveling right now is they had one episode, I think there was no fighting. It was just people talking. And fans lost their
Oh,
minds. They're like, I
wow.
can't believe this. Blah, blah. And it's like it kind of tells you how, as much as I like the show, that it kind of gets by on its action and its animation, right? And so I feel like what's funny is that Gundam, oh not Gundam, that's another show that I'm watching. Um, Evangelion, it is mostly action, and that is what's bothering me. It's like they have this bits of like, character drama, but then it's like an angel attacks, and then it's like a little bit of melodrama, and then angel attacks, and you get like some of their backstory here and there, but a lot of the characters after a while become well, not all of them, but some of them become just really annoying,
Mhm.
like just to watch. You are very annoying, and I get why you have daddy issues or you have mommy issues or you have no parents, well, whatever the case may be,
Right.
you have some issues. And because they're making these children, get into these basic mechs,
Yeah.
half mech, half alien, suits of armor to fight, and they're going through some stuff, a la Gundam. But I feel like it wasn't enough for me to care about these people, like, at all. And so now we're finally getting to the point where it's like, oh, I see what happened. Such and such was having an affair with such and such, and you're actually such and such and such and such. And oh, okay, we got something now. This is cool. It's not just fighting
Yeah.
and hints at like some type of catastrophe. Like we're actually getting somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I'm liking it a little bit more. So I might actually finish it this
You
year.
might this
Um,
year.
I always get knocked off and I go watch something more current. It
Yeah.
is what it is.
It's
And so I'm,
March.
I'm happy. I'm happy. Yeah, we'll see. We will definitely see. But it's getting there. It's
Good.
getting there.
Good.
Um, and I say that even though I mentioned Gundam, I have stopped watching Gundam to watch this one because that was also doing something similar where they fought all the time and there wasn't enough. I know there's a good story under there. I don't need the action as much as you think. I really don't.
Yeah.
Especially when it ends in a very Sailor Moon esque, where it's
Yeah.
the same transformation, do the magical whatever, the thing dies, and then you're back to normal over and over and over ad nauseum. So yeah,
Agreed.
good stuff. Good stuff. Have you been watching anything interesting as of late?
I want to say that I have, but also I have no memory of the past week outside of work. I do know I don't remember if you see the post that I'm really going through it. I'm just
Yes,
going
yes.
through it. I just anyway. I don't remember if I mentioned last time we recorded that I started watching Gundam, the um the CGI one. It's on
Oh,
Netflix,
okay, okay. Yeah,
and I managed to get through I think the first episode.
okay.
Yeah, and then I haven't picked it back up again.
It could be kind of
It's
rough. It
just
could be kind of
it
rough.
is, and I think that they I don't know what's going on here. They just they put a lot of effort into this, there's money being spent, and they had their token redhead girl. There's always a
Yes,
token redhead
yes,
girl.
yes.
And and I just feel like, um, I don't know if it can hold. Maybe it can in further episodes, just like you're saying, with
Right.
where, with Gundam and Evangelion, and I feel like not all of the shows should be like this. Like, not all of the
Yeah.
Gundams, like, come on, you gotta, because I don't know, I'm like, okay, well, there was a lot of action, there was a lot of, like, there was a lot going on, but
Yeah.
it didn't make me say, "Oh my god, I have to watch this." And maybe that's because I know a lot about Gundam, you know?
Could be.
Cause
Could
it's
be.
like, cause I'm not shocked that an actual Gundam shows up and starts
Right.
ripping through y'all's mobile suit, you know? You guys are all happy that you got mobile suits, but an
Yeah.
actual Gundam shows up and is like, "Slip, zip, 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 zip," and then you're like, everybody's like,
Yeah.
"What is that?" Yeah, I've already been through that with, like, 3 of the other Gundam series that I watch, because
Yeah.
they all have the same formula. So, like, I don't know, maybe, like, with this being computer animated, didn't make me go, "Oh my god." The only reason why I watch it, because I was like, "What the hell is this?" I was like, what is this?" And then, like, I turned it on, and then I was like, "Du-du-du-du-du-du." I'm like, "Okay, I'm just watching Call of Duty on a video." Like, it looks like a video game, but not in, like, the great way, not in, like, "Oh my god, this looks amazing."
Right.
Like, no, it just looks like a video game that you've played before. And,
Yeah.
so yeah, and yeah, so that was kind of all I felt. But the thing is, I know I've watched some other interesting stuff, like, outside of, like, Pantheon, which we discussed last time.
Right, right.
At least I feel like I did, but I can only remember.
That is a special. That's rough. I'm gonna need
Yeah.
you to we gonna have to have a watch party or something. We gotta get you, because if all you remember is like work and your work isn't the greatest, then it's like that's like a goldfish syndrome type thing. Like where they only remember, so like I think it's, and don't quote me on this folks, but
Mm,
I think they only remember like 5 minutes at a time. So
so sad.
if they were in pain for 5 minutes, it's their whole life, you know? And that's shockingly disappointing, or not disappointing, but depressing.
I've
So we need to,
yeah.
yeah, we need to maybe watch some more of the Gundam. Like even though it's you've seen it already, you kind of know what to expect. And for people who like oh, Kenny is complaining about too much action. It's not really the action in and of itself, because I remember watching like Transor Z and like Voltron, and they very
Uh-huh.
much do the same thing, but the way they handle their story, there wasn't a lot of this mystery or backstory that's like, which is clearly what it is, like front and center. Like we want to talk about what's happening to these children as this is going down, their mental state and all this other stuff. Like you are presenting something interesting and then stopping to have a lot of action. And I think that's what bothers
Yeah.
me. Not so much the repetitiveness, but it's the fact that there's something here. Whereas like Transor Z isn't very deep.
Mm,
So I'm like, yeah, I'm watching this because I want to see robots fight each other.
right.
Whereas like in these other animes, like you have a really good story here underneath all this extra stuff.
Yeah.
Let's get to that. Like
Yeah.
how many episodes do we have to watch before we get to the good stuff? And it's finally getting there, and I'm appreciating. So now when a fight happens, like, oh, I get it. I see why. And I also want to say the notion, and I know I've done this because I've done this with One Piece. The notion that you have to get through the first whatever to really enjoy the show, yeah, that's some BS. I'm sorry, I can't do it. Nope. Because the whole idea, especially when it comes to a pilot episode of anything ever,
Yeah.
you have to hook the audience there, especially nowadays because there's so much content. Like
Yeah.
one of our topics we're going to be talking about is a new anime that's coming out soon, and how one of the animated or animation studios makes a ton of animation that we like, and it's like, oh, they just from that studio you have like 12 series. So you could imagine from all these other places, there's so many different things you can be watching. If it doesn't hook you right then and there, at least in the first 3 episodes, there's a good chance this person's never coming back.
Yeah. We're not.
Like, if it wasn't for the acclaim that these shows have gotten
Yeah.
over the years, I wouldn't be watching now,
Yeah. I'm
you
I'm with
know?
you.
So I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. And again, I'm watching this so we can have some dope breakdowns on. anime in
Yeah.
and of itself, the evolution of the shows that we love, as well as how they kind of map out with today's anime,
Yeah.
because there is a kind of like how mecha anime was really huge back in the day.
Yeah, we
Shonen
all
has
watched
taken
it.
over, and it's Shonen's not going anywhere. And so it's gotten to this weird point where if you don't watch Shonen, so Shonen being basically action based anime
Mhm.
targeted towards young men, uh, then you don't know anime. But there's a ton of different genres of
Yeah,
anime.
because I don't do shonen like
Um,
that.
yeah, there's the stuff that's like, Studio Ghibli, where it's like a film. He
Mhm.
does all films and stuff like that. You have shows that are like horror based or romantic comedy. There's a
Mhm.
romantic comedy anime.
Yeah.
You feel me? So,
Slice of
but shonen
life
is like the biggest thing. If it's not Naruto, Bleach, well, it was those. Now it's One Piece and
and Boruto.
Boruto, uh, Dragon Ball. Like if it's not one of those, or Jujutsu Kaisen, which
Yeah,
is another
Jujutsu Kaisen.
show that that one of the studios we're going to talk about does. Um, so yeah, we can actually roll into our first topic. There's a new anime dropping, and I saw this first on uh, Gizmodo. Shout out to Isaiah Colbert. That's the homie. Uh,
Homie.
they wrote about the new sci-fi anime that's coming from the Cowboy Bebop's creator. Um, for those who don't know, that's Shinichiro
Shinichiro.
Watanabe
Yeah,
or
Watanabe.
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 Watanabe. There you go. I suck at names. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
um, but that's the new anime that's coming from them. It's going to be in April. It's dropping in April, I believe, April 5th.
Mm.
And they released a trailer. They released a trailer that kind of laid out the scope of what we're getting into. One of the first thing I noticed with the trailer was that it had a jazz uh soundtrack,
Ooh.
which, I mean, come on, son.
Cowboy
This
Bebop.
is what we expect,
Yeah.
right? Exactly, right. Or hip hop, because Champloo is right there. So I expected this. Um,
So good.
but the trailer talks about how in the future a doctor named Dr. Skinner makes this drug that people take to basically cure all pain. So if you are, uh, coming off of an injury, or you have, it's everything from like minor injury or minor headache type stuff to like, a disability. It cures all that stuff. But then 3 years after the drug hits the market and it blows up, everyone discovers that the drug actually has a fatal side effect. And Dr. Skinner basically tells everybody, hey, yeah, you guys are going to die in the next 30 days. I think it's 30 days.
Something like that.
If you don't find me, I have the cure and you need to come find me. If you don't find me, everyone dies. Whoever took the pill dies. And that's a significant amount of people, considering it was a great thing. Like, they thought it was the best thing since whatever. And that sets off, this team of, I don't know if they're secret agents or not, but
Mhm.
essentially there was a special task force set up to track him down to
Mhm.
get the cure before everyone dies. And that sounds really cool. Like that's not I'm really interested in why he would do something like that. Like why
Right.
would you like purposefully poison everyone and and then be like, come find me. Like, aha, I got the cure, come find, like, what is that about, fam? What was also
Yeah.
interesting about this, outside of it being from the creator of Cowboy Bebop, is all the talent that's wrapped around this project.
Mm.
So for instance, we have Kamasi, saxophonist. We have Flying Lotus. We have, and in terms of doing the music, we have Mappa, the animation studio behind Jujutsu Kaisen, Chainsaw Man, the final season of Attack on Titan, a bunch of different stuff. They're working alongside, I think it's Sola Entertainment, to produce the anime. We also have, they released the voice cast for the American and Japanese voiceovers, and won't you know it, some of the actors from Cowboy Bebop are actually voicing some of the characters
Yeah.
in this show,
Of
which I
course.
thought was pretty freaking dope.
They like
Shout out to
doing that.
Spike Spiegel fans out there.
Right.
Um, so I thought it was interesting, and I'm looking forward to checking it out. The second thing that I thought of, outside of the talent that's assigned, or that's taking part of this, was the animation. The animation looks good. But at the same time, I feel like, and this kind of goes with some of the stuff we were talking about before. I feel like Mappa is stretched thin with all the shows that they're producing, and I could be wrong, but I have seen like online where some of the animators have talked about how things aren't the best all the time, and with so many shows under their belt, you can kind of see there's a like a level of talent or like a benchmark that they set for like we're gonna make really really good animation, and then you start to see the fringes of that where it's like this looks really good, but there's something missing here.
Yeah.
Excuse me, and I don't know if that's because of all the work they're doing, if they're not being treated properly or whatever the case may be, um, or you know they're overworked or whatever. But there's just something. There's a fluidity that's missing, and I think that they're trying to harken back to Cowboy Bebop in the way it was animated, at least based on the visuals, what it looks like. It reminds me a lot of Cowboy Bebop. If I didn't know better, I would be like, oh, that's Cowboy. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's similar to what we've seen before, just a new version, right? But like the framing is different. Like there's parts where they show the fighting and it looks really good. It's fluid. It's great. And then there's parts where they're like talking or they're like just moving through the city, and it's like they drop the frames or whatever, and so people look stiff, and or either when they do get into a fight, if it's not as smooth, it'll be like almost as someone remove frames in the sense that like one scene cuts to another too quickly,
Yeah.
and you
Saving
miss
money.
the. I mean, I can only go by because I can't speak to any person's skill or you know a lot of people like to say they're lazy or stuff like that. I won't speak to that because I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. But what I can say is what it looks like, and it looks like a little bit of you know, there might be some corners cut here or there,
Yeah.
based on what I've seen them do in the past, right? And granted, this is a trailer, similarly to what we were talking about with the Looney Tunes trailer, the day the Earth blew up. This is all we got. All we got is a trailer.
Yeah.
And so until we see the actual show when it drops on April 5th, this is kind of, you know, what we have to go on.
Yeah.
But it will be releasing, I want to say, on Adult Swim.
I
Yes,
don't have that
it'll be on
channel.
Adult Swim. And I think it will also be on Crunchyroll, but I do know it's going to be on Adult Swim, and then it's going to be on Max after, like 30 days after the English language premiere. So it's going to be the Japanese version first, and then Max with the English dub. Um, so I'm pretty sure it's going to eventually be on Crunchyroll, but not immediately. So if you don't have Max, and if you don't have, well, I mean, yeah, you need Max
Yeah.
because unless you watch, you know, on TV. Um, I know that sounds weird because we don't have cable. That's just why.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it sounds weird for me to be like, oh, you just turned this channel. Like, nah, I haven't had cable. I haven't had cable in
I
years.
don't know what
Yeah.
shows come on when and why and how. I don't think I know what network TV is anymore.
I think the only network really is like HGTV, and that's because it's on when I go to my parents. Like, if my mom isn't watching or my dad, they're not watching sports. My mom is usually watching that, or it's like a depending on when we go there,
Yeah.
it's like the run of like the older shows like Murder She Wrote or
Murder, She
Matlock
Wrote.
on not AMC. What's the channel? It's one of the channel. I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's basically we don't have cable, so I can't tell you. I have streaming
Yeah, we
apps
have
is what we
apps.
got.
We have apps.
We got apps. We got apps. But what did you think of the new anime
I thought
Lazarus?
it looked, pretty cool. I did.
Mm,
I mean, like, I think that I was excited because I was just like, "Oh, cool." Like, I
something new.
yeah, it's something new, and it's from, Shinichiro Watanabe, and I was like, "Okay, cool." Like, I'm here for it. I actually am. And and then I kinda got a little overwhelmed because I was like, "Oh, am I gonna add it to the list of shows that I'm not gonna watch?" I mean, we're gonna watch it. We're definitely gonna
Right,
watch
right,
it, but,
right.
like, I feel like I have been really struggling to put on new shows and watch them. like, obviously, and we do a lot of times we're like, okay, we need to watch these things because we're going to talk about them, and we watch them so you guys don't have
Right.
to.
Right.
Um, but like sometimes it's just hard for me to like get into something new, and I think one of the reasons I was able to get into Pantheon because it just popped up, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay, this is something that I can just kind of put on in the background, and then it actually ended up really getting me on that first episode, and I was like, "Oh," so I am kind of excited for Lazarus, and, I did think it was kinda interesting. It was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm gonna make something and make you guys, find me for the cure." Like, "Dude, what?"
Right. Like
Like, because
like why?
well, not to spoil Pantheon for everybody, but there is a part where something like that happens with
Oh,
the character where they're like, "Oh, by the way, this is what we're doing."
right.
And, if you wanna live, this is what you have to do. That literally happens in season 2 of Pantheon. So,
Mm,
again, not trying to, like, spoil it, but something similar does happen, but I mean, it's not the whole premise of the entire show, so it's just a little just a thing. So I just thought that that was gonna be cool. I mean, I'm excited for it, and I know I don't sound as excited, but that's because I really haven't gotten much sleep in the last few days, and I'm tired. I'm tired, and I only have 1 lamp, so it's not like bright lights are keeping me up. Like, I'm a bit exhausted
not the one
for
lamb.
1
And
lamp.
that's the fourth wall breakage there. We were talking off camera uh about the lighting situation where Tess is at, and she was like, I have one lamp, it's over there. I'm not getting up. It's just what it
It is
is.
what it
They'll be able to
is.
see me. And I feel you, because the week has been, the whole reason we didn't there's multiple reasons why we weren't able to record earlier.
Yeah.
And you know, I guess it would be easy to pretend like nothing is happening, but I don't even, I like, for instance, a few weeks ago, so our one of our toilets broke,
Oh god.
and we had someone to come out, like a plumber come out or whatever,
Yeah.
and I was helping because he was an older gentleman, so I
Yeah.
was trying to help him remove the older
The toilet?
toilet
Okay.
to put in the newer one,
Yeah.
and, like, in the process of carrying it, because we had to go
Yeah.
downstairs, because it's awkward, it's just an awkward thing to pick up, right?
Yeah.
It, like, slid back and, like, hit me in the face, and, like, my the part of my, like, my was it right my right eye I didn't know it was swollen. Like, it hit me and I was like, "Oh god," but I was like, "I'm trying not to drop this on this older dude as we're going down the steps." And so we get down and, like, I feel it. I'm like, "Oh, whatever." And to make matters worse, it wasn't even the right toilet. We had to get a whole
Oh
different
my
toilet.
god, I'm done.
But we so, like, a few days later, I'm like pressing, I'm like, "Is this swollen?" And my wife is like, "Yep, it's definitely swollen." I'm like, "Oh, great." So, like, it's just, and that, granted, that feels like that's very much a first world event. But when you start to add a bunch of those things together, I'm not gonna do it here, but when you start to add them together, and you have a span of a week of just things like that happening, where you do a bunch of stuff, you move everything out of the way, you try to get something fixed, and you have the wrong thing, and in the midst of that, you get hurt.
Yes.
It's like, son of Anita Baker. It's just not
Thank
fun.
you. Thank
It's
you.
not fun.
Thank
So I
you.
totally get it. Also, I was gonna say, when you were like, it seems overwhelming, and I might not get to it. There's so many things in my queue right now
Yeah.
in Netflix that I want to watch, have not been able to
Yeah.
watch. Um, Either because I'm writing about something,
Yeah, you're
and so I have to
busy.
watch that, or it's because it's much easier to go back to something that's comforting. So,
Yes.
for instance, instead of watching something new on Netflix, I've been watching A Different World. As you guys
It's
know,
on
it's
there
one of
now.
my favorite shows of all
Mhm.
time. And despite the fact that they've upscaled it to 4K, and it's doing some weird things with people's faces and whatnot, I'm pretty much enjoying what's happening. I'm enjoying it. Also, stop doing that. You're doing it wrong. Don't use AI to upscale. It's terrible.
Yeah.
Anyways, um, and that's actually a big thing with streamers, which is why they have a lot of those older shows.
Mhm.
People tend to watch what they know.
Yes.
Because they know that they're gonna have a good time, and they don't feel like their time is wasted.
Yeah.
So you're not in the minority in that
Yeah,
case,
I'm
is what I'm
not.
trying to say.
And you know what I did
Um,
do though? While I was
yeah.
nursing my knee that I hurt at work, I've been nursing my hurt. You got hurt. You got hit in the face with the toilet. I got hit in the knee with a hand truck.
Oh
Like,
gosh.
like life. But I did.
Right?
My brain just registered that I did watch Meghan Markle's show. And I like you can't make
Oh.
me hate this woman. I like people who don't like her. I literally don't trust you. She's a sweet person. Like I don't know what's wrong with people. Like this narrative that they try to make of her because she married a prince is just stupid. It's just
Isn't that
bad.
like the thing that correct me if I'm
Mm,
wrong, ladies, but isn't that like a thing? Like that's a fairy tale thing? Like you married a prince. Now, granted, you didn't think the prince's family was going to be racist. I get that,
right.
but the idea of like, oh, you married a prince, that's like a thing that people
Yeah, people
want,
aspire to.
right?
She
Like,
did
and
it.
that's yeah,
Yeah, if you wanna hate on
kudos to
her
her,
on for that, well, I mean, that's probably what you should be hating on. Be like, "God, I hate that girl. She married a prince." Yeah,
right?
be a
That would
hater.
kind of
But, when
yeah,
you're a
yeah,
hater, you have to you need to be honest about being a hater. Like, you can be
facts.
very successful if you're just honest about your hateration. Okay? That's what you're doing. But if you try to deny it and it's like, so you're not even a proud hater? Like just be like, I'm just hating because you'll be so much happier when you are proven to be a
A
hater that no
closeted
yeah, don't
hater,
be closeted about being a hater. Just be out and proud and out in the open. It feels better. Be like, I hate her because she has what
right?
I want. I don't hate
Hey,
her. I'm
hey,
just
that's
jelly.
the first step to healing is admitting you have a problem.
Admitting.
Um, or you could be like Kendrick, like just hate everything about a person, and hopefully the culture is feeling the same way.
Yes,
Hopefully,
yes. And then and you get a Super Bowl because what?
right there you go. You hate and got to. That's how you
That's how
hate.
you hate.
Hate for a goal. That's how you do it. That's
Yeah,
what you
because
do.
if you're not
Now,
hating for money, if you're not hating for paper, then I don't know what you're doing.
yeah, you're hating backwards. You really are. It's
We
just
should hold a
I
master
don't know. I know,
class.
right? Right? But yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing it when it
Lazarus.
drops. If I have Max when it drops. Speaking of which, though,
Yes.
apparently Disney, Hulu, and Max are making a killing when it comes to the streaming bundles and such.
Smart.
So I'm over at Deadline looking at this from I think it's Dade Hayes. I believe that's how you pronounce their name. Talking about Disney Max bundle is crushing it and it's better
Ugh.
than they're having better subscriber retention than Netflix, which is wild
Yeah, it's
considering
crazy.
Netflix was one of the only streamers in the black
Mm,
for a while, like especially during COVID. And
yeah.
they've been steadily raising their price, and people still aren't necessarily leaving Netflix, at least
Right.
not the way you would expect, because
Yeah.
Netflix is kind of killing it. At the same time, though, uh, Disney the bundle is doing really really well,
Mm,
um, to the point where it's better than Disney's own bundles. So like the Disney bundle with Hulu and ESPN Plus isn't doing as well as the Disney Hulu Max bundle, and they measure this by looking at the subscribers. So what they were saying was like around I want to say around 80%. So like 1.6 million customers who signed up between July and December for the bundle were still subscribed 3 months later. That wasn't necessarily the case. I think that with Netflix and Disney, Hulu, ESPN, it is around 50%, 55%.
mm,
And even though the Netflix is still doing really well,
mhm,
it kind of makes you go, huh, considering that the bundle costs more than Netflix.
mm.
Um, by a decent margin, right? And so the fact that people have kept it and have not unsubscribed is very telling. And for me, I would say it's the fact that you have so much content under one umbrella.
Yeah.
If you like TV, even if you like in terms of cable, Hulu is the best way to go because they get shows that are on TV.
Yeah.
Um, One of the reasons I have Hulu is for those type of shows that I can't necessarily get because I don't have cable, right?
Mm,
Um, Disney Plus, I mean, you have Disney's back catalog of everything, plus anything Marvel related. Speaking of which, Daredevil just dropped. I need to go watch that. That's something else I need to watch. You have that as well, and then you have Max, which has all the WB stuff.
Yeah.
From the
DC.
the new DC stuff coming out. You have the older film or just films in general. A lot of like films are on there, and then you have shows, the hit, HBO shows like The Wire and stuff like that. Which again, people typically watch the older stuff versus the new, and so that makes sense. So you have a bundle of really, really a ton of content. And if
Mm.
I don't know if you do, I don't like the Discovery side of it, but if you like that too, that's part of the Max, app or whatever the
Mm.
case may be. So yeah, that's a lot for what you're paying for. It's still too pricey for me, but um, I'm not mad at anybody who would pick up that bundle and kind of stick with
Yeah.
it. It just makes sense. It's three different companies. I never thought I would see HBO with Disney
I thought
or
that was weird. I was like, wait, did somebody acquire somebody?
no. So what we've been seeing, it's very interesting because we talked about this before, where WB, Discovery WB, because they bought them, was they were talking about how certain films and stuff weren't making money on the streamer, and so they were like removing things, like even if they were done, the Batgirl film was finished, and they just
And they
we're not going to
scrapped
release that,
it.
right? They scrapped it, right? But then I started seeing a lot of WB films on Netflix. So like the DC movies
Mm-hmm.
were starting to come to Netflix. A lot of their content was coming over to Netflix, and I was like, huh, that's interesting. And then it was like, well, it makes sense. Netflix is the most popular right now. If you have content that isn't really, doing it on your app, you could pay a little bit of money, or Netflix can pay you some money to get it over there,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so you make money both ways. But for them to actually partner with Disney, I was like, oh, considering their direct competition with, not only in streaming, but within like in the theaters and stuff like that, it was like, huh, someone broke bread. Similarly to Sony and Disney, someone broke bread and was like, you know what? Maybe we can make this work. And apparently, it's working.
It's
I would
working.
love to see the breaks, considering I want to say Max has to have I don't want to say short end of the stick, but you think like because Disney owns part of Hulu,
Yeah, just
so
yeah, I thought they were the same.
yeah, so it's mostly Disney with this,
Mm.
and then Max. You know what I mean? So I would love to see the splits,
Yeah.
if you will, but it's interesting because again, it's an expensive bundle.
Mm.
Uh, when you compare what you could get, like you could
Yeah.
get a ad based version of these apps. You could potentially just get Disney and Hulu.
Mm.
You could do what I do, where I sub every so often and then unsub. You know, it's a hassle, but I only sub when I want to watch something that something drops on the app. You could do that, um, and those are all viable options. But people are like, I got it. I'm going to stick with it. These are the top three, which could be scary for Netflix, considering Netflix doesn't have a bundle with anything. And
Netflix is a bundle with itself.
right, it's just, I mean, they used to have the DVDs. They don't have those anymore.
What's that all
So,
about?
well, it's just no one was using it. It was
I
just there. They had
was.
warehouse. No, you weren't using it. You have the DVD still, and they were like, just keep it. They was like, you know what, you good. We ain't even got nothing to play it on. Just keep it.
Why you
Just
gotta
just
call
go
me out
ahead and
like
keep it.
that? Why you gotta tell me my
Hey,
business? You don't know me. You don't know me.
I come on, son. Even look I think it was in the press release. They were like, "Hey, we shutting this down, and if you still have the disc, just keep them. We good. You ain't gotta send them back. Is we gonna write it off. It's okay."
And they put my name
Yeah.
in
So
there, didn't they?
right, and yes, we're talking to you, Tess. That's what they said. We're talking to you. Just keep them
I'm just
shits.
talking
Ain't
about
nobody
change my
gonna
name.
ain't
I
nobody watching
I
them.
did not have that thing. That was not registered under my name, so I don't know who they're talking about.
You sharing passwords and
I
such.
mean,
Oh
I don't know
man,
what that is.
I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. So yeah, and I think that it is interesting though. I think that it makes sense in terms of the amount of content. It does. And having one login potentially for the bundle, I think it's one login. I
Mm.
could be wrong, but having one login and you have all this stuff, especially if they had a unified app, because if you get, for instance, if you have Hulu and you have Disney Plus, you can actually watch the Hulu stuff on Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So you don't have to sign into two apps. Um, So if they have anything like that, that would be even better.
That'd be so crazy.
Uh,
The can you imagine Hulu stuff, but, like, with Max's interface?
oh god, yeah,
That would be
yeah.
so
Pick
bad.
pick the best one
The
out of the
best
three.
interface, please.
Pick pick the best one. And for me, it was probably be Hulu,
It's gonna
just
be
because
Hulu, hands down.
Hulu's been around long. Yeah, if
They
you
were the
can't do
first.
Netflix, yeah, if you can't do Netflix, do freaking Hulu. Like just stop. It took me a while to find. Oh my gosh, like just new stuff on their app. I'm like, you just advertised this. Why can't I
I
find it?
can't find it. Like, I really struggle with Max, I struggle so hard,
Facts.
and all I wanna do is watch one thing. I wanna watch John Oliver. That's it. And I always have to do the
Yeah,
search because I
I think
can't just scroll and find him. But Bill Maher always wants to show up, and I don't watch Bill Maher. I'm sorry. I stopped watching him a long time ago. And I'm like,
yeah,
"No." He always
I think the
pops
only one
up.
that's worse than Max is like maybe the Apple TV one.
Yeah, that one's
Um,
bad. I only used it one time.
Granted, Apple does a really bad job of like promoting their shows anyways, but like even on the app,
Mhm.
it's like here's two shows that we think you're gonna want to watch, and then a bunch of like searching. It's not the it's one of those things where like it could work.
Mm.
Like I see the potential,
Uh,
but and it's not even that it's like bad. It's just the fact that there's something so much better that's been here
yeah.
forever. Look at that. Like, anyways, um, so yeah, I just thought I thought that was interesting. Speaking of streamers, though, people are upset with Netflix. Outside of the whole idea of them charging more and more and more and more, and nothing's improving
Yeah.
with Netflix. Um, whereas when it comes to them doing or bringing films to theater, now they've done this before. Um, with several different movies. I want to say The Irishman was one of them, where it'll have like a limited release in theaters and then it'll go to the streaming platform or
Yeah.
whatever.
Ouch.
And I want to say they do that, or they were doing that at one point because it allowed them to. I mean, there's potential in extra money, and then some of the directors are like, "We're not going to give you this movie unless it has some type of theater run."
Mm.
But then also, it allowed them to. It better position them to have to win awards. Like the Oscars and such, like stuff like that, right? So, but in this case, they are the theaters weren't happy because apparently Netflix made a deal with Greta Gerwin.
Category?
Um,
Yeah.
she is doing a Chronicles of Narnia or a set of Chronicles of Narnia films for Netflix, and the first one is supposed to be dropping in next year. I want to say around Thanksgiving time.
Mm.
And what they did was Netflix has made a deal with IMAX to ensure that it'll have a 2-week exclusive release window for the film. So there's a couple things with this. The In doing so, I some of the theaters are unhappy because if you have something in IMAX that's taking up a slot
Yeah.
for IMAX and then it's gone 2 weeks later, they're not going to make any money from that posting.
Mhm.
Their thinking is, why would anybody come see this in IMAX when it's going to be on the streamer in 2 weeks? Um, and they're telling you up front, like it's going to be there in 2 weeks. And it's we've seen that. We've seen that with other films. And what happens is it would be different if like people like everyone flocked to the theater in those 2 weeks. Yeah, you're gonna make some money. You're gonna make
Yeah.
concessions and all this other stuff. But if people don't go, it's locked in. That film is locked in for 2 weeks for the IMAX theaters. And so you potentially are losing money, especially considering a lot of movies are, vying for that position.
Yeah.
Disney apparently has an unnamed film that's supposed to be dropping around the same time for IMAX. And so
Mm.
it's competing with something that's not going to be in theater. But it's different when it's like, because at first I didn't understand it, but it's different when it's like you have a WB film, like a new Batman,
Yeah.
and then you have, a new Iron Man or something,
Yeah.
right? They're competing, but they're going to stay in theater the whole time. It's like, oh, you could potentially go see them both. You could see one and then eventually go see the other. You're not losing a theater. But if it's something where it's like, oh, we're only going to be there for 2 weeks, it's like, oh, that could have been a theater I put my movie in, and but I can't. and so I have to compete, but then I'm not really competing. And so yeah, more people might come see my film, yay, but I could have just had another theater. Like a whole another theater or screening could have been for me, for my film, because there's no other big movie coming out this month. In you know, in was November. There's
Mhm.
no other big movie. So I would have had all the screens if it wasn't for this exclusive deal. So I get where they would be upset. And then the theater is like, we're not going to make any money because no one's going to come see it because they're going to wait for it to be streamed.
Mhm.
And so we're just wasting an IMAX showing of
Yeah.
something that no one's going to watch. And so they were threatening to boycott. And this is um, coming from uh, a site called Puck, um, where they have like I guess like a newsletter that kind of goes out that talks about these sort of things.
Mhm.
And so what was interesting also though is IMAX is apparently pushing back and saying that, well, we do have a button that we can press. You know, it sounds a little Drakish. Not gonna hold you, but they said they have a button that they could press, a nuclear option that would essentially force the cinemas to show the Chronicles of Narnia film.
Okay.
They're not talking about what it is, and I don't know if they want to go down this road like talking about, but they do say that we could potentially press a button and things will move accordingly.
So,
Um,
what do you think the button is
yeah.
gonna do? Is it gonna show some P tapes? Like, what's
Right.
happening? What is the
No,
button
I think
doing?
it's gonna be Kendrick popping up
Just
in
saying.
the middle of the film, like, "Hey, viewers." No, or say viewers. No, I think it might be something contractual. I think it might be something where, okay, you have because the IMAX is something that's placed in theaters, I believe. It's not something that like Regal and AMC don't have they have IMAX theaters or IMAX screens, but they're not the ones producing the screens. So it's like a contractual thing. And I think they can press a button and be like, we can shut all this down. You have no movie showing in IMAX. I don't know how that works.
Yeah, I don't know how that
Um,
works because can't
because
somebody
it's three
sue?
different Yeah, because it's three different entities. So you have the IMAX, you have the theater itself, so let's say Regal, and then
Yeah.
you have whatever studio is actually producing a film.
Do you remember when
So it's
IMAX
a
was
three-way
only
contract.
do you remember when IMAX was only in, like, planetariums and stuff? Like,
Yeah,
museums?
it was amazing, and it was. I remember going to see some wildlife thing when I
Right.
was in like middle school, and I was like, this is amazing. It like
Mm.
covered the entire
Yeah,
the the whole wall was
the wall.
screen, and just
Yeah,
like the sound was amazing. And now it's kind of like, I mean, it's cool, but
yeah,
it's like normal now,
yeah,
I
it's the
guess.
standard now.
Unless you're watching like an Avatar film, then it's like, oh, this is amazing. The 3D is bananas.
Yeah.
But aside from that, and mind, I'm just not a IMAX person. I would
Uh-huh.
love to go. It just costs too damn much.
My god.
Uh, so yeah, there's already reasons for people not wanting to go. Um, I don't know. This is a weird thing.
Mhm.
I feel like Netflix should just let movies be in the theater if they're gonna do it.
Mm,
Like if you're gonna do it, go all out and just let them be in the theater and then have them come on the streamer
mm.
after the fact. Like Warner Brothers has been successful with that a little bit, where they'll have a big movie. If it does well in theater, then it'll eventually go on the streamer, and it's like, oh, here's another reason for you to stream.
Mm,
I do understand that though. Netflix doesn't really have anything outside of that. They don't.
mm,
There's only been a few shows that have gone to like DVD, for instance, like the
mm.
Orange is the New Black, which pisses me off because I'm like, there's so many things I would buy if you just let me buy it. But they're looking at it as like, well, it's all about the subscription. If you're not subscribing, blah blah blah, then what are we doing?
Yeah.
You could offset that money with theater tickets. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But the fact that they're beefing is hilarious to me. Um, I'm kind of on the side of theater a little bit, even though I'm not going to go, just because they're already in competition. So the fact that you can kind of like muscle your way in doesn't feel all that great. And then also, Netflix has been notorious for having like a really, really good film and not going to theater, and it could have made so much money. Like it just could
Yeah.
have made a crazy amount of money, and they just were like, nope, nope, put it on the streamer. Like the what is that? The movie with the detective.
Mm.
something onion. No, what is it called?
Glass Onion?
Yes, Glass Onion.
I still haven't
Uh,
watched it.
that would. Oh, it's good.
Yeah.
It's good. Not as good as the first one, but it's good. It's. So here's my thing, real quick.
Yeah.
Side aside,
Uh-huh.
I have a problem with mystery films that withhold clues from the audience.
Yeah.
I have a problem with that. So there's this thing that happens, and it doesn't. It's not as bad as in this film as like the Oriental Express, where you're following along with the detective and they find something. It's like, ooh, I got a clue, you know? And so you're looking at the clue with the detective and you're like trying to pinpoint like who did it. Like, was it Cheryl from room B when on her way to such and such? You know, she never really liked Christina. You know what I'm saying? So you're kind of trying to piece everything together. And so he'll have a clue and then he'll go and he'll accuse somebody. You're like, yes, I knew it was her, and she's always beefing with Christina. Christina, you shouldn't take that girl. And then he's like, he'll say something that it didn't show. There was nothing. He'll be like, I know you did it because way back, you know, in the year 2000, you had a beef with, Greg. And then they do a flashback to
Poor
Greg. I'm like,
Greg.
who the hell is
Poor
Greg?
Greg.
Where did Greg come from?
Greg's out
But they'll
here.
have it's a whole flashback with Greg. And then they're like, "Oh, he's such an intelligent detective." I'm like, "Bitch, no. He got the script and he read it and was like, "Ooh, Greg, I'm gonna hold this to the end and I'm gonna surprise everybody." I don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like either make it so that the clues are just for the detective, so we don't see anything. Um, kind of like what is it? Two Smoking Barrels? I think it's Two Smoking Barrels. Where the guy he walks into the whole skit is him walking into the room and he's like, uh no, it's not Two Smoking Barrels. What's the name of that film? It's gonna kill me. But he walks to a room, and it's a whole like comedic thing where he looks around, he sees all the bodies and stuff like that, and he's like, I know exactly what happens, and he says exactly what happens, but he's not really supposed to know. It's like
Mm.
a joke of
Mhm.
about detective films or whatever. Like he's just like, oh, and there was a cat here. It's like, how the hell do you know there's a cat? It's supposed to be a joke. In these
Yeah.
films, it was treated as serious. It was like the film didn't show you any of this information. He just has it. I never liked that.
Mm.
The first film doesn't really do that. The first film, I believe, shows you everything
Mm.
in some form or fashion. So that's why I think it's better. The first film is better, but it's still a good film, and I think Netflix would have benefited from putting it in theaters for a little while,
Mhm.
especially since they paid so much for it.
Yeah, they did.
Um, it just makes sense. Um, the last thing we want to talk about was Disney Animation Studios. So the staffers over there were able to ratify their first union contract, which is really, really big considering, well, one, they've been trying to have this, they've been doing this for like 17 months, I think. Like they're
Wow.
trying to get it done, get the contracts and everything
Yeah.
set up and signed and all this other stuff. And this will be their first labor contract. The vote was conducted by IATSE's Animation Guild, which I found out earlier, well, not earlier this year, but like last year, that Disney was not a part of, which is wild considering it's freaking Disney. Excuse me, Disney and Pixar was not a part of this. Excuse me, Animation Guild. And because remember when they went on strike a while back, I was like, huh, two big groups aren't part of that.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
Very interesting. And I think Disney was like, nah, y'all good. Y'all good. Um, and so they were like, no, we need to unionize
Mhm.
because duh. Um, and so I'm looking at Deadline. Shout out to Eric Peterson. I think it's Peterson.
Okay.
Um, they were talking about how it's the first labor contract. They voted, and it was a 93% in favor of sealing the deal, with 96 of eligible voters casting their votes. So majority of the people cast their votes, and majority of the people who did wanted to seal the deal. The contract provides for production workers to receive protections, including pension and health benefits. While they didn't necessarily have this, like, is it good health benefits versus not so good, or did they just not have any? I don't know, but yeah, included pension and health benefits along with 24% wage increase for production managers and a 29% hike for production supervisors and a 35% jump for production coordinators, who are the lowest paid workers in the unit. So
Goodness.
essentially, you look at that like when we had the actors strike, um, the Actors Guild and whatnot, and how they were not just striking for themselves, but also for the people who, basically the staffers, the people who do the makeup, the people who work the cameras, the people who do
Mhm.
whatever. They usually get paid really, really poorly, and they need to be able to, make ends meet as
Yes.
well. And so they were also, so this kind of helps the animation guild helps them as well. And so uh they were saying that I want to say they had 839 votes and 93% said yes. So I think only 5 said no, and potentially it was them trying to hold out for something better.
Okay.
But from all its, people are tweeting and whatnot, people are celebrating. It seems like it's a good deal regardless. Like, maybe we could have got more. They didn't talk about a lot about. I don't see anything about AI.
Mm.
I'm trying to see if they had like an AI clause, because that was a big thing where, especially for the lowest paid workers,
Mhm.
having their jobs potentially, soaked up with the AI stuff was bad. It's
Yeah.
not a good thing.
Yeah.
Or, similar to the actors where their likeness could be used via AI over a certain period of time. And, so they had to have some type of protection against that.
Mhm.
I don't see it here. Um, but I'm sure that it's something was said somewhere. I know this was something that was done with the VFX workers at Disney
Yes.
a while back. Same thing with Nickelodeon. So I I'm pretty sure that's in there somewhere. I just don't see it currently. And that could be, if it wasn't in there, I could definitely see more than just 5 people or 4 people saying no, because that's
Mhm.
a big deal.
Yeah.
But they were to ratify that earlier this week. So that's dope. I think that's really cool. I think everyone should get paid what they're worth. And, you know, when we were talking about, anime and Mappa and all the stuff that they're doing, animation is tough. This isn't
Yeah.
the easiest thing to do. It's very labor intensive, especially if you have to crunch. Well, anything with crunch. So video game development, film, VFX and all that good stuff. They want what they want out of you, and you got to give it to them. And yeah, we've seen how poorly that can go real fast. So
Yeah.
I want everyone to get the money that they deserve. I want them to be able to eat and sleep, have a place to sleep type stuff, and health benefits. Everyone needs health benefits, especially if you're trying to start a family.
Right.
So shout out to them. I'm excited. I'm excited.
Yeah.
I say that as if I have a project happening or anything like that. I don't. I'm just happy that someone's winning. That's
Somebody.
you know what I mean? And it doesn't make sense that it took this long. Like, I think that, I mean, Disney makes enough, right? I mean, you
I
would imagine
I mean,
for
do they?
freaking
Didn't they like have a problem with letting what's her face in for a ticket with her?
oh my
I
gosh.
mean, do they have money? Maybe they're living on
Well, that's probably
borrowed.
why they have money, because they act cheap sometimes.
So they would say
Like
that
what
they are what it was it called frugal.
right, like Inside Out 2 was the highest grossing animation, like animated film ever, until Niza 2 dropped, which is going bananas. I need to see
Yeah.
that somehow. But yeah, it made over $1 billion. Like, I think I think you can help them
I
out.
think that'll be fine.
I think they're worth it. I
Yeah.
think they're really, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Like, I
think
think you just made a Billy, like, I think it's okay. I think it's all
yeah.
right. Yeah, 1.69 billion. Like, good grief.
Wow.
And that's one film.
That's Inside Out too?
Yeah, Inside Out too,
Wow.
on a budget of 200 million.
And Najah
And
just beat
mind
that.
you, yeah, Nizabi, oh god, yeah.
Najah the
I think it's one of the highest grossing films, period.
I wanna see it. There's some,
Uh
like, a retelling of Najah's actually real story? What?
yeah, apparently the first one did really well too.
Which I
And
didn't see.
this is the first film, like, I think first animation or animated film to make a certain amount of money within one region. So like in Japan,
Yeah.
it made a crazy amount of money. Um, and then, or wait, is it Japan? Hold up. Let me make sure. I don't want to actually say the wrong
I don't know where it was released, but
country.
I heard that it was
No, in China, my fault. It made the most. So it was released, it's a Chinese film. So it was
mm,
released in China, and it crossed what? 2 billion, and the first animated film in history to hit 2 billion.
mm,
It also the highest grossing film of 2025 so
mm.
far. the seventh highest grossing film of all time, and it is the highest grossing film in single box office territory in China,
Wow.
which is bananas. So like it broke multiple records, and it doesn't seem to be slowing. I
Mm,
mean, it's slowed down a little bit, but it's still making a lot of money.
it's just
Um,
crazy. I want to make
and
that
this is
money.
yeah, like this. Hopefully everyone there is getting paid the way they should.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, because that's crazy. That is crazy. So yeah, the moral of the story: Disney got it.
They got
Pay
money.
these people. Make sure that they're taken care of because they're getting you paid. Like I don't, you know what I mean? It's pretty
It's that
self-explanatory stuff.
simple. It's that simple. And I just don't know how to stress how
Yeah,
simple it is. Pay the people
yeah,
who are making you the money. Don't treat them like they should be honored to have a job. They actually are the ones who are making the money. Like,
right. And stupid amounts of money, just stupid amounts. Anywho, that has been our show for this week. Shout out to everybody for hanging out with us. If you're
yes.
watching on YouTube, feel free to subscribe, hit that notification bell so you're aware of all the new shows and whatnot.
Yeah.
And if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, or I was about to say Google Podcasts, but that no longer exists. They moved
Aw.
that over to YouTube. Um, I guess people weren't using it enough,
Mm.
uh, and it just wasn't picking up as much traction. So basically, all the usual places. Go ahead and add us to your RSS feeds and whatnot. We'll be back with more stuff to talk about in the coming weeks.
Mhm.
Um, I am looking forward to finally getting to break down some of these anime that I've been watching. Uh, I had a brief chat on Twitch. No, yeah, on Twitch when I was streaming
Mhm.
about Death Note, and I don't want to get too far into it,
We need to do
but
it.
I was in my feelings a little bit, so
We
we're definitely gonna do
we
that.
are going to do Death
Um,
Note, y'all. We are
we're
going
going
to
to do
do
Death
it.
Note, so stick around for that. And yeah, looking forward to it.
No, I mean, yeah, that's it. I'm looking forward to the chats and to the deep dives. I mean,
Yes,
that's what we love doing anyway. We love doing deep dives into things that because we just nerd out.
facts. That's why you listen. You listen for the nuanced discussions,
Yeah.
if there are nuanced discussions. Usually, it's just us kind of like agreeing for the most
I
part.
know, right? I know, or like giving our. This is what we do. We agree on a whole bunch, and then sometimes when we like don't necessarily agree, we state our cases, and then we agree.
Right? We're like, you know what? I kind of see what you're saying. Yeah, he was kind of a punk. I didn't think so at first. You know what I'm saying? He seemed kind of macho, but then when you say it the way you said it in that light, you know what I'm saying? If you squint real hard, he was
Real
kind of a
hard.
punk. You know what I'm saying? And we didn't really like him that much. You know, and that's a joke for Cowboy Bebop. We didn't like a certain character. Uh, we didn't like a certain character on that
No,
at all. The Netflix one, the
the
Netflix one,
Netflix
not
one.
not the animated one,
Let's
the
be
Netflix
very
one.
clear.
Yes,
Very
the Netflix
clear
one.
was the Netflix one. That
Yes,
the show that should have never happened.
facts, facts. Although the ships look nice, I wasn't mad at the
I wasn't
ships.
mad at the
Yeah,
ships.
they were okay.
I wasn't
You
mad
know,
at the ships. I maybe that
they
was
were
the only
okay.
thing we weren't mad at. This-
Facts, facts. And the people who are like, I'm not even gonna go there. It's
No, we're
cool.
not.
That that's it for me.
That's
I'm
it
not
for us.
not. We're not doing that.
I'm
Mm-mm.
already fading. I'm like, I'm like, no, no more Cowboy Bebop live action
Yes.
show. That anyway. Yeah, that's pretty much it, y'all. Thanks for hanging out with us as always. We really
Yes.
appreciate y'all. Stay tuned for what's coming up in the future, as Kenny has said, and don't forget to please be kind. Don't be a dick.
Yes.
Wash your hands, wash your faces, and your butts.
Yes.
And while you're at it, please wash your legs too, because come on, people are still apparently not washing legs.
That's
Go
yeah.
to Lush. They've got some really nice Easter items coming out. Okay, so please, just why don't you go and do that. Happy um Mardi Gras and Ash Wednesday and Lent and Ramadan Mubarak. I mean, this girl ain't fasting. So, side note, why my one of my best friends called me and said, "You're fasting, right?" And I said, "No." As I was eating, literally as I'm eating Sour Patch Kids. No,
Oh man.
no.
It's like, do you know the week I've had? I deserve Sour Patch.
Amongst
I,
everything
it's
else, but to deprive me of the one thing that was keeping me going,
oh man.
shook. Absolutely not. If if I have to be forced into this situation, then I'm gonna need some sugar. And Sour Patch Kids were my
Yes.
anyway. Thanks, guys. We love you. Bye bye.